Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to my first vlog. My name is Russell. I'm starting a new project right here in the heart of the Mediterranean, Malta. Yes, you heard me right, I'm in Malta. And I've been living here for almost 9 years now. The code name of the project is Melita, Project Melita. Now you might be thinking what that really means. Melita is the historic name for Malta. The Romans and Greeks called Malta Melita back in the day. Not just that, you'll find this word Melita even in Bible. Yes, it's that old. Now, this channel is going to be about travel, history, and culture of this island. Now, come to think of that, there is no better place to begin than in Valletta, the capital city of Malta, which is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The entire city. Now right behind me is the city gate, the iconic entrance to the capital city of Malta. Alright, enough of talk. Let's take a walk through the city gate and see what's in there. Let's go.
You're watching a walk through the heart of Malta's sunlit capital, built on stone and surrounded by the sea. Right ahead is the Christ the King statue standing proudly just outside the city walls. It's a symbol of peace and strength, a welcoming sight for anyone entering Valletta. The statue was unveiled in the early 1900s to honor Malta's strong Christian roots and resilience. Many locals see it as a quiet guardian, welcoming visitors and blessing those heading into the capital. We're now headed toward one of Valletta's most famous landmarks, the Triton Fountain. You can already see it up ahead, right in front of the city gate. The fountain is one of the first sights to greet anyone arriving in Valletta. It was restored a few years ago and now it shines beautifully, especially at night when the lights reflect off the water. It's a favorite meeting spot for locals and a perfect place to start exploring the capital. The three bronze figures represent sea gods holding up a massive basin, a tribute to Malta's deep connection with the sea. From this spot, you can see St. John Bastion on one side and St. James Bastion on the other. These massive stone walls once stood as Valletta's shield against attack. Built by the Knights of St. John in the 1500s, they formed part of a fortress city designed for strength and survival. Today, they remind us how this small capital once guarded an entire island, a place of both beauty and defense. Now we're headed toward the city gate, the official entrance into Valletta. This gate has changed design several times over the centuries. The one you see ahead was redesigned by the Italian architect Renzo Piano in 2014, giving a modern touch to this ancient city. Here is an earlier version. It was called the King's Gate, built in 1853 during Malta's British period. It replaced an older Baroque gate and served as the grand entrance to Valletta for over a century, a neoclassical symbol of empire that once greeted everyone entering the city before it was demolished in 1964. Just ahead is the Parliament building, a modern landmark that perfectly blends old and new Valletta. It was also designed by Renzo Piano and built using the same golden Maltese stone that surrounds the city. Some locals love its bold design, others say it stands out too much. Either way, it's become part of Valletta's evolving story. Across from the Parliament is the Royal Opera House site. Once, this was Malta's grandest theater, built in the 1860s, but during World War II it was destroyed by bombing. This site reminds us how severely Malta was hit during World War II. The ruins of the Royal Opera House still stand as a quiet memorial to that time. Instead of rebuilding it completely, the space was turned into an open-air performance venue. It's a powerful reminder Valletta has known loss and rebirth, yet art and culture still find their stage here. Now begins a longer walk, a chance to slow down and take in the rhythm of Valletta. Before we continue, if you enjoy my channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon. Right ahead is the old Wembley store. It served the city's locals and visitors for generations, but recently closed its doors after 101 years. Another small piece of the city's everyday life that's now part of its history. We're walking through one of Valletta's narrow back streets. Streets like this are what make the city so special, lined with limestone walls and wooden balconies hanging overhead. They were built this way to give shade and cool air during Malta's hot summers, and today they still keep that timeless Mediterranean charm. These streets date back to the 1500s when Valletta was first built by the Knights of St. John. Every block here followed a strict grid plan, practical for defense and to let sea breezes flow through the city. The streets get even narrower here, some barely wide enough for two people to pass. This is classic Valletta design, built for shade and protection from the wind. It's amazing how close the buildings are. The balconies almost touch above your head. Streets like this show just how compact and carefully planned Valletta really is. These narrow streets are one of Valletta's best surprises. They twist and turn between old limestone buildings, many dating back more than 400 years. What's nice about walking here is the quiet. You're only a few steps from the busy main road, yet it feels like another world. Every sound echoes, every corner tells a small story. Valletta's beauty isn't just in the big monuments, it's in simple streets like this, where everyday life and history live side by side. All around the city you'll see these colorful wooden balconies known locally as galleria. They're a hallmark of Maltese architecture, introduced centuries ago and inspired by Arabic and Sicilian styles. Each one tells a story. Once built for privacy and shade, now they're a proud symbol of local culture and everyday life. Here's something you don't see often, a balcony that wraps around the whole corner of the building. It's a beautiful example of how Maltese builders made the most of every space, adding both shade and a view from every angle. We're now on our way to see a church originally built in the late 16th century and renovated in the 1740s. Here we arrive at Nicea ta Santa Barbara, the Church of St. Barbara. It's small and easy to miss, but it's one of Valletta's oldest parish churches. Built by the Knights of St. John, it's dedicated to the patron saint of artillerymen, as the city was once a fortress. Now we continue towards St. John's Square, one of Valletta's main open spaces. The atmosphere will shift, becoming livelier with more people, cafes, and visitors wandering through the area. This is the Church of St. Francis of Assisi, one of Valletta's quieter churches. It dates back to the 1500s and is known for its simple yet elegant Baroque style. I'm recording this video in the morning, which is why it's so quiet. This area usually gets quite busy later in the day. It's winter now, so the streets feel calm and cool, giving Valletta a softer side that you don't always see in summer. The street we're walking along is called Republic Street, Valletta's main artery that runs straight through the city from the gate all the way down to Fort St. Elmo. When the city was built in the 1500s, this was called Strada Reale, the Royal Street, and it was the center of life for the Knights of St. John. Over the centuries, it's changed with Malta itself, and after independence, it was renamed Republic Street. Today, it's still the heart of Valletta, where history, culture, and daily life all meet. We're almost at St. John's Square, one of the most important spots in Valletta. Through the trees ahead, that's St. John's Co-Cathedral coming into view. Built in the 1570s by the Knights of St. John, it represents the order's power and devotion. From the outside, it looks plain and simple, but don't be fooled. Inside, it's covered in gold, marble, and incredible Baroque art. We'll explore the interior another day, but even from the outside, it's one of the most striking buildings in Valletta. Here's a 360 view of St. John's Square. You can really see how the buildings, cafes, and the cathedral all shaped the heart of this area. I was expecting a busier square, but it's still early in the day, and winter keeps the crowds a bit quieter. Malta's weather might surprise you. Summer lasts only about 3 to 4 months from June to September. Then comes a short, mild autumn in October, followed by a long, cooler season that stretches from November to April. By May, the weather turns mild again, more like spring. In winter, it's not freezing, but the wind can be really strong, making it feel much colder. I've even heard people from Northern Europe complain that Malta can feel cold, so you can imagine. Now we're walking toward Great Siege Square. This area has a few important monuments that highlight some of the biggest moments in Malta's past. This square is named after the 1565 Great Siege, when the Knights of St. John and the Maltese people successfully defended the island against the Ottoman Empire. And here we are at the Great Siege Square. Here's the statue of Pope Pius V. Although he became Pope shortly after the Great Siege of 1565, he strongly supported the Knights of St. John and helped rally European powers in the years that followed. You can enter St. John's Co-Cathedral from Great Siege Square as well. This side entrance here is the official visitor entrance, while the main doorway at St. John's Square is reserved for worship. Now let's get into the real story of the Great Siege, the event that shaped all of this. The Great Siege of 1565 was one of the most important moments in Malta's history. The Ottoman Empire, one of the strongest forces in the world at the time, tried to capture the island. The Knights of St. John, together with the Maltese people, held out for months under brutal attacks. They were heavily outnumbered, but they refused to surrender. In the end, the Ottomans withdrew, and Malta's victory became legendary. This siege is the reason why Valletta was later built as a strong fortress city to make sure the island would never be that vulnerable again. What you're looking at is the 1565 Great Siege Monument, built to honor the brave defense of Malta. It features 3 powerful bronze figures: faith, valor, and civilization. This memorial doesn't just mark the siege, it symbolizes Malta's spirit, courage, and the unity that helped repel the Ottoman Empire. Across from the statue is the Courts of Justice with its neoclassical columns, the heart of Malta's legal system. This square is a reminder of the courage and endurance that shaped the island's history. Now we'll head down toward Republic Square. It's a lively open space where locals and visitors mix, right in the heart of Valletta. It's also a great place to slow down for a moment and take in the atmosphere of the city. Before we reach Republic Square, you'll notice a red British phone booth and a post box up ahead. Small but familiar sights from Malta's time under British rule. Today they're mostly decorative, but they add a fun contrast, bright red against Malta's golden stone, and perfect for a quick photo. When you suddenly stumble upon these classic red phone booths and post boxes, it feels like a little piece of London dropped into Malta. You'll find these all over the island, a reminder that Malta was a British colony for over 150 years. We're now at the Republic Square, and we're getting close to the end of today's episode. Locals often call this area Piazza Regina, Queen Square, a favorite spot for breakfast and evening coffee. In the middle of the square stands the statue of Queen Victoria, another reminder of Malta's British chapter. The statue was placed here in 1891 during British rule, and it still sits proudly among the hum of cafes and clinking cups. Time has shifted around it, but its presence anchors the square with a quiet, old-world charm. Just behind her is the National Library of Malta, the Bibliotheca, home to centuries of history, including documents, maps, and manuscripts dating back to the time of the knights. This building reflects the dignity, elegance, and quiet knowledge that defines Valletta. That brings us to the end of episode 1. There's still so much to see, so I'll meet you in episode 2 as we continue exploring this incredible city.